A lot of marketing students think that if they study marketing, they will be ready for marketing jobs. But the moment you start looking at real job descriptions, talking to people, or trying to build real experience, you realize something pretty quickly. That is, studying marketing and getting ready for marketing work is not the same. Universities can absolutely give you solid foundation. It can teach you frameworks, concepts, and language of marketing. But the reality is, the job market doesn't reward theory by itself. It rewards skills, proof, and execution. And that is what this video is all about. I'm not here to bash university because that's really not the point. I think the real issue is many students think that a university will make them job ready on its own. And for marketing especially, that usually isn't enough. So in this video, I want to break down the biggest gap between studying marketing and actually getting marketing jobs today. And more importantly, what I think students should start doing earlier if they want to feel way more prepared before they graduate. First, I want to make this clear. This is not an anti-university video. I still think universities are important and useful. It gives you fundamentals. It teaches you things like consumer behavior, positioning, branding, strategy, and all the basic language of marketing. And that stuff does matter. But the real problem is a lot of students assume that because they're learning marketing, they're automatically becoming ready for marketing work. Speaking from experience, those are not the same thing. As I said before, university can give you the base, but the real job market, the real world, usually expects more than the base. And I think that's where the real disconnect starts. Because once you move from the classroom setting to the job market setting, the expectations change real fast. The first big gap is theory versus execution. In university, you spend a lot of time understanding ideas, models, frameworks, fundamentals, case studies, and definitions. But in a job, nobody is paying you just to understand marketing. They want you to do things. They want you to write copy, plan content, come up with campaign ideas, review performance, test things, improve things, and most importantly, make real decisions. Again, and in my opinion, I guess this is the biggest shock for students. You can understand marketing in theory and still feel completely unprepared when you actually have to execute. You can know what segmentations means, what branding means, what content strategy means, and still struggle when you sit down and try to make something real. Because knowing the language of marketing is not the same thing as producing marketing work. So if you're still studying, one of the smartest things that you can do is to build a real project. That could be a blog, a content page, a social media account, or a YouTube channel, like anything which you can play with on a regular basis. The format matters less than the fact that you're actually doing some work. I'm a strong believer that execution is like a muscle. If you wait until your graduation to build it, the gap is going to feel much bigger. Even when you start doing real work, there is this another thing which hits real quickly. The work itself is way more messier than most of the students are used to. And the second big gap is university gives you clean and clear assignments, but real work is messy. In university, you usually get a clear brief, a clear deadline, and a clear rubric. You know what the task is, you have a rough sense of what success looks like, and you know you're being judged. But real work, on the other hand, is usually not like that. Real work is vague requests, incomplete contexts, changing priorities on the go, weak briefs, and situations where you need to figure out things when you're already moving. And I think this is something that students massively underestimate. In university, the question is usually very clear. In real marketing work, figuring out the real question is a big part of the job. Sometimes someone says, this page isn't converting well, or we need better content. And now you think, okay, what does that actually mean? What's wrong? What are we trying to fix? What matters first? That kind of ambiguity is quite normal in marketing work, but it's not something that a lot of university settings prepare you for. So again, one of the best ways to get ahead is to put yourself in situations where work is less controlled. Personal advice, put yourself in chaos. Taste the real deal. Internships, student organizations like student unions, volunteer work, freelance work, these helps a lot when it comes to getting a real taste of real marketing work. Anything that forces you to deal with real people, unclear expectations, and imperfect information will make you stronger. But even that is not the full problem, because for a lot of students, it's just not the real work that feels messier. It's that the work also uses tools and systems that they have barely touched. The third gap is concept versus tool comfort. All students know the terms. They know what SEO is, they know what analytics is, they know what email marketing is, they know what strategy is. But knowing the terms is very different from being comfortable with the tools and systems behind those terms. You might understand SEO, but never use keyword tools or never work through real content workflows. You might understand analytics, but never have looked at real reports and tried to pull real useful insights from them. You might also understand what email marketing is, but never have touched automation, segmentation, and performance tracking. This is where I think a lot of students leave university with a lot of marketing vocabulary, but sadly with not enough operational ability. Now, to be clear, I'm not saying you need to master every tool before you graduate. That would be very unrealistic. But I do think it's a problem if you graduate with basically zero comfort using the tools that real marketing teams rely on a regular basis. So the goal is not mastery again. The goal is familiarity. Get comfortable with spreadsheets, learn basics of analytics, learn how reporting works, learn the very basics of content workflows, one or two tools that are relevant to the kind of marketing job you are interested in, and actually spend time inside them. Because again, the market does not reward understanding the marketing terms, it rewards usefulness. And once you start applying, this leads to another uncomfortable realization. The degree helps, but it's usually isn't the thing that is doing most of the heavy lifting. The fourth gap is my personal favorite and personal pain point at the same time. That is grades versus proof. In university, success is usually signaled through assignments, marks, and academic performances. But in the job market, one of the strongest signals is proof of work. Can you show work? Can you talk through projects? Can you point to something that you made, something you improved, something you tested, something you learned by actually doing it? And that's what makes you believable. A degree can absolutely get you considered. I'm not denying that. But proof is often what helps you stand out. And I think this becomes really obvious once you start paying attention how hiring actually works. Employers these days, they don't just want to hear that you studied marketing. They want reasons to trust that you can contribute. That might be a portfolio, that can be an internship, it can be a blog, a content page, even a YouTube channel, anything that shows initiative and ability. One of the biggest goals that you can have as a student is to graduate with at least one body of proof of marketing work, one portfolio, one clear skill area, one set of examples that you can confidently talk through, because that changes how you present yourself completely. And honestly, this leads to what I think the biggest issue underneath all of it. A lot of students start thinking about employability way too late. The fifth gap is university doesn't usually force you to think about employability early enough. So a lot of students spend most of their time during university doing what they think they're supposed to be doing. That is attending classes, completing assignments, and getting decent grades. And then near graduation, reality hits, they suddenly start looking at jobs seriously and realize that the market expects way more. Not just knowledge, experience, skill proof, practical confidence, examples, and that's where the panic kicks in. Because now the gap feels super big. And I think this is the part that matters the most. The real mistake is not going to university. The real mistake is thinking that university alone will make you job ready. And that's the mindset shift. If I had to reduce this into something really simple, it would be this. Learn the fundamentals in class, build one real skill outside class, create visible proof of work, and get some kind of experience before you graduate. It doesn't have to be perfect, it doesn't have to be flashy at all, and it doesn't have to look impressive on LinkedIn. It just has to be real, because real work builds real confidence. And that's really why I wanted to make this video in the first place. I wanted to make this video because I am close enough to this transition to see the problem clearly. I'm not saying I have figured out everything. I'm not saying I have mastered the job market. Honestly, I am struggling in the job market. But I do think this gap becomes obvious when you compare academic marketing with what real market actually rewards. And the biggest thing I keep coming back to again and again is university can give you the base, but it's your job to build everything, all your skills by yourself on purpose. If I had to leave you with one final thought, it would be this. If you're studying marketing right now, don't just focus on passing. Focus on becoming useful, focus on building something, focus on getting real reps, and focus on creating real proof. If you're studying marketing right now, comment below and tell me which of these gaps feels most real to you. I would love to hear them. And if you like this video, you can check out my other video where I discuss about 7 marketing skills that I would learn, which would make me more employable. And if you want more videos around marketing skills, job readiness, building proof, AI in marketing, please do subscribe. This is it for today, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Till then, peace.